Considering that our transparency and participation scores have stagnated since the last assessment in 2021, and our oversight score has only seen a 2-point improvement since 2019, the government should step up their efforts towards openness.
Bless up my people. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. And in this one, my people, we see where the outgoing Minister of Finance, Nigel Clark, pens a letter to the media houses of the whole toss-up between him and Warmington as it pertains to Warmington, saying that the IC must never spend another dollar of the Jamaican taxpayers' money until their audit. When in truth and in fact, my people, him know say after every year when the annual report come out, they are audited, and him never stand up and talk that in the parliament. So him get a whole heap of backlash for that. But I'm going to hear where Warmington say again, my people, and then I read out this letter from Nigel Clark.
1.8 billion to over $2 billion. You're giving them $193.3 million. In addition, okay? Direction and management, you have 1.3 million. Financial management and accounting services, 3.6. Human resources, that is the increase in salary that you talk about, reclassification, 59.2. Administration of internal audit, 939,000. The issue is, we haven't seen an audit of that department table in this house, but they are spending taxpayers' money. What I need to know, who is responsible for auditing that department to present the report here? The issue is the Auditor General cannot do it because she's illegally sitting on that as a commissioner, as against what the Constitution provides for. So who is going to provide the audit for that department? In that you are dealing with the department. In acquiring the services of the overseas forensic auditor, what procurement method was used? Yes. Was there any procurement method? Or it was just employed as a friend from overseas? Are you able to answer this question, Mr. Minister?
Remember, with the greatest of respect, I think you have the wrong meeting. There was a meeting earlier this morning, the oversight meeting. Were you not there?
In the funds, you are providing funds for them, so they must justify to you why they're asking for this.
Right. So remember, under our arrangement to preserve the independence of the Integrity Commission, funds are provided on a line item basis, and it's within the powers of the Integrity Commission to use the funds that are provided by the government and taxpayers of the country in ways that are consistent with their mandate. To the extent that you have a question on how they have chosen to use those funds, I would humbly submit that that question is better directed to the Integrity Commission.
I'm saying, Minister, I expect that the audit, we get an audit report of that department before the next financial year, before next budget comes here. There's no way we're going to approve another $2 billion for a department that has not been audited for years, okay? So I expect that the audit be laid here before March next year, because we're not going to allow it to pass through here. If I'm the only person to stand and say, no, I'm going to do it. But there must be an audit at that department.
Remember, I don't think any reasonable person can object to your requirement. These are public funds, and I have no reason to expect that that's a difficult proposition.
And so you hear that for yourself, my people, and he spoke to Warmington there, so as if he never knows say the Integrity Commission audited every year. And me don't know if I try to do the same as many of them to undermine the Integrity Commission, for we turn around and cuss the Integrity Commission, but that will never happen. But here's a letter, my people. He says, I am writing with reference to my response to Member of Parliament from South St. Catherine, the Everall Warmington, during the October 15 meeting of the Standing Finance Committee. I would like to highlight that the objective of the meeting was to consider the first supplementary estimates for fiscal year 2024-25. These were very challenging to prepare given the significant growth and fiscal shocks delivered by Hurricane Beryl and other exogenous events. I had to be prepared to explain all of the related detail. I was therefore focused and preoccupied by this objective. Hence, in that context, I did not focus on providing a comprehensive response to Mr. Warmington's statement at that time. though I had earlier in discourse indicated that the Integrity Commission is audited by a private and independent auditor, as opposed to the Auditor General's department. Many agencies and public bodies are similarly audited by private audit firms. What was reported in the media was unfortunate, devoid of the context, and only my last sentence was quoted. I could have been clearer, and I certainly could have been more explicit. I accept that the fact that I wasn't has led to an unfortunate misinterpretation of my remarks. I own that too. Mr. Warmington's question came 50 minutes after I started my presentation and went against the flow. We were not yet halfway through the dealing with the real purpose of the meeting, and I was therefore very eager to move on. Further, I formed the view that the issues related to the IC's audits were more relevant for the meeting of the Oversight Committee, which took place earlier that same day. And my first response to him communicated that I was very hesitant to speak in definitive terms about what the IC had or had not procured, as I felt that could have been overstepping. My last sentence, which achieved my aim of ending the exchange with Mr. Warmington so the meeting could return to addressing substantive matters, has been a point of focus. In an effort to move on, I agreed with the general principle that the tabling examination of audit reports is reasonable where taxpayer funds are expended. And so I concluded, and that should not be a difficult proposition, in reference to members' stated expectation to have all of the audits by next year, assuming that they needed to be revisited following the initial tabling. In my mind, it was not a difficult proposition precisely because the audits existed. This was a subtle and implicit response to the question where the relevant fact was suggested or implied from my remark rather than explicitly stated. My aim of de-escalating that would allow the meeting to move on came at the cost of a misunderstanding of meaning and intent. I am taking the time to write because it is important for the finance and accounting staff at the IC and the auditors who work hard to support the completion of financial audits on a timely basis and who took pride in what they do, to know that parliamentarians, including me, value their work. With this clarification and with my acknowledgement that I should have been more explicit in pointing out, again, that the audit reports had already been done, I do not intend to be seized any further by this issue, especially since I am trying to close out on a number of pressing matters before I demit office. Nigel Clark. And some people only can be the judge of that. Anyways, moving right along, we see the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, is calling on the government to improve transparency in the budgeting process for people. So they did an open budget survey in which Jamaica transparency score in its budgeting process is below the international benchmark.
For transparency, there are 8 essential budget documents reviewed for availability, timeliness, and comprehensiveness. 7 of the 8 budget documents were available. The exception was the pre-budget statement, which was not and has never been published by the Jamaican government. 7 of the 8 budget documents were also published in a timely manner. Jamaica's transparency score of 50 out of a maximum 100 is the same as it was in 2021. And while this is 5 points above the global average, it is below the benchmark of 61 designated as sufficient by the Open Budget Survey. It's below the average score of our neighbors in the Caribbean and Latin American region, and it's below the OECD developed country average to which we should aspire. Based on an average of its scores across the 3 categories of openness, Jamaica earned an overall insufficient score of 41. This ranks Jamaica 55th out of the 125 countries assessed in the 2023 Open Budget Survey. This is above the majority of countries, but considering that our transparency and participation scores have stagnated since the last assessment in 2021, and our oversight score has only seen a 2-point improvement since 2019, the government should step up their efforts towards openness.
So isn't this clear and evident that they're not being open to a greater extent to the people of Jamaica? If the researchers can say this, what says the Jamaican people? Right now, my people, we're seeing we're members of the PICA. That's the Passport Immigration Citizenship Agency, restive right now for pay my people, as well as the UTech administrative and auxiliary staff are restive for pay my people. My people, when you tell me what you think on that one, yeah, some very important things going on right now in the country where we should have even privy to those information and we can't get the information. The government took 300% increase for themselves and give the people them 20%. And right now, many departments still restive for their pay, and we see that the finance minister is heading off to the IMF. My people, when I drop on the 2 cents, let me hear what I say on them pressing topics here. Right? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Run go over to my other platform, Facebook, TikTok, follow me over there at Anisabel Rose. Like up the video, share out the videos, them my people. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. On the road to 30K and beyond. Stay tuned for more videos, stay tuned for more updates. Big up on yourself.